Breaking tonight, Omaha police pulled over boxing champ Terence Crawford on suspicion of driving through a red light this weekend. According to the ticket, Crawford told the officer he was on his way to watch his son wrestle for a state championship at CHI Health Arena. Good evening, I'm Brian Mastery.
And I'm Zia Taher. Remember, Crawford is awaiting an April trial on a careless driving ticket he received last fall in a highly publicized traffic stop. He pleaded not guilty. In this case yesterday, an Omaha police officer who was parked at an intersection because of the state wrestling tourney stopped Crawford in a Mercedes SUV around 2:30 Saturday afternoon. The officer wrote on the ticket that he was parked when his vehicle drove through two red lights, then passed multiple vehicles downtown between 14th and 8th Street.
Back in September, Crawford was pulled over for allegedly driving carelessly. He was stopped near 12th and Capitol the morning after a parade was held in his honor. Crawford's bodyguard says they announced they had legal guns in the car during the traffic stop, but Omaha police said one of the officers didn't hear them, and when they saw a gun on the floor, ordered everyone out at gunpoint. The three passengers in the car filed a federal lawsuit against the city in December, claiming unconstitutional use of force and alleging discrimination. Crawford did not join that suit.